Hello and welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are looking at the week of Monday, September 1st to Sunday, September 7th. So that first week of September, it's here already. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been here before. And please, as always, take everything through your own filter, seeing if it resonates with you, because it is a reading for the collective. Keep building your own intuition about what's right for you to respond to and what isn't. So I'll talk a little bit about the astrology as usual, and then we'll go into the cards. And I'm using Ask the Witch, and we'll end with our Tree Keeper's Oracle as usual. So this is a big month in terms of eclipse. So we're back to eclipse season, and we have 2 of them this month, and our first one at the end of this week. We still have some planets, some big ones, retrograde. Saturn is now retrograding on this Monday, the 1st, back to Pisces, and we'll be there until February, I think mid-February or so. And, you know, because it's a retrograde, it's going over territory it's already been in. And that gives us a chance to reflect on what happened before, what changes we might want to make, how we see things differently. And in this case, it can be about rules, because Saturn likes rules. It's very structured and organized. And this is, you know, going back to Pisces, where meaningless rules can disappear. Outmoded structures may dissolve. Pisces has that dissolving kind of quality ruled by Neptune. So that's a big one right there. And then on Tuesday, we have Mercury entering Virgo. Now, Mercury likes it there. It's a ruler of Virgo. And it's going to be emphasizing neatness, organization, good diet, service to others, all those good Virgo qualities. So it's really good mentally. It will help us with projects, getting things done, doing them in an organized, efficient kind of way. Wednesday, then we have Mercury squaring Uranus, because Mercury, you know, with moving into Virgo, that's square to Gemini, where Uranus has recently gone into. So there you get a very different effect. And, you know, Mercury moves so quickly, so this is like maybe a day or something. But that particular day, Wednesday, we could have zany ideas. You've got the lower mind ruled by Mercury. Uranus rules the higher mind. Uranus is going to be the stronger planet, and that's where we get the eccentric ideas, perhaps the really brilliant ones also, perhaps. But it can be quite out there, quite eccentric. We might feel a little abrupt in our decision making that day. So just know that could be fun, but also could be a bit of a bump, and you might want to wait a day or two to, you know, finalize any decisions. Then on Thursday, it's a busy week, we have Mars squaring Jupiter. Now that's a different energy, because when you get to the squares, there's a lot of tension. You know, just think of that angle, and they, you know, they have different goals. So with Mars having a lot of energy, the action, the very masculine planet, meeting Jupiter, the expander, the gas giant, the optimist, we could fuel up our anger. That could be one way that happens. It could happen that we get a lot of energy and want to get things done. We just have to be careful about not pushing ourselves too hard or pushing others too hard with that. So, you know, it could be good for physical activity, again, getting things done, but just watching that we don't push too hard with our will, and that we're doing right action from, you know, a heart-centered place. Then Friday, Now Uranus turns retrograde. So on Monday it was Saturn, and by Friday it is Uranus. So here it's just, as I mentioned, it has not been in Gemini very long, and it's only at the first degree, closer to the second, I think. So this one can take us into areas of our lives we may have neglected. Our focus goes more internal, and I think, there's a bit of course, it's the retrograde going back over territory we've already been over. Gemini, again, the mind, communication, siblings, but here it is going back toward Taurus and into Taurus eventually. And that's where, we can go more internal and manifesting our unique selves. That's where the Uranus comes in. We'll be looking for new kinds of freedom, new ways to express our freedoms perhaps, and maybe more in touch with our gifts. Uranus can really help us understand our individuality and our unique gifts, so that's where that energy is coming from. And then last but not least, on Sunday the 7th is when we get the lunar eclipse, and this is in Pisces at about 15 degrees, I think 23 minutes or so. So this one is really good for identifying our real emotions, going deeper with that, not our surface ones, but our real emotions. There's an emphasis on relationships. It can be a very creative and inspiring kind of energy. And some people say that the eclipses go for about 6 months, that energy. We're going to have a solar one later in the month. But here, it could also make us super sensitive. It's helpful energy to reconnect with our dreams, to be in the present, to meditate, and to be with nature. I mean, Pisces is a very, I think, sweet, soft sign. Again, big emphasis on the unconscious and creativity. All right, and looking deep into what those things mean for us because of the eclipse. All right, let's look at our cards. No majors this week. We didn't get, well, that's not true. We got one earth card, so we got a variety. All the elements are represented. And we begin on our Monday with the 7 of Pentacles. Of course, it's Labor Day here in the States, and that makes a lot of sense to me. This is looking at the fruits of your labor. And we have a field here. The mask part is interesting. Again, it's the Witch deck, and it's interesting to me that the back is turned to what looks like the actual crop, and the emphasis, the gaze, is on these pentacles that are in this sort of I don't know, it reminds me of, it's vining in some way, like hops or grapes or something like that. But there is a sense of pausing and looking at the resources. So what are our resources right now? And 7s connect to the Chariot, so that's that forward moving energy. And sometimes to me it's getting those resources lined up, getting the various elements lined up to make a forward move. Tuesday, we switch energies to the fire element wands, and here we have the Queen of Wands, and yep, she's an old broad there. I really like her wand, her staff, with the mushrooms growing out of it. So it seems very much, of course we know they can be poisonous, they can be delicious. So you got to be careful with those. So she knows her magic here, and she has a history, and I think that's shown by sitting in all these mushrooms and understanding how to work with their, you might even call it fire, right? We have those red ones right out in front. Don't think we'd want to be eating those. And then she's got her black cat there too, her familiar, to remind her of the journeys that she's been on. So she's very experienced, she's very good with instinct. So this could be your own internal feminine fire, or it could be a person around you. By Wednesday, we're into another energy, and that is the swords. This can be, it's the 6, connected to the lovers, can be leaving a bad situation behind, leaving troubled waters, taking a journey, going in a new direction that feels perhaps like there's more focus, that you understand it in a better way. Often I feel a connection with Charon and the crossing of the river Styx, and going symbolically to another dimension, or at least another direction. Here you have a protector, one of the witches protecting another a woman and child, it looks like, sitting toward the front of the boat. But there's definitely this sense of progress and going forward. On Thursday, we're still with the swords. That was our dominant element this week. 1 earth, 1 wand, 1 pentacle, I should say, 1 wand, 3 swords, and 2 cups. So the swords, the air, are strong this week. Makes sense to me with the Uranus and the Mercury stuff. That's very mental. So this one, the 5, this one obviously has a more desolate look. You see someone who looks a little bloody, a little cut up, like the war has gone on, or some kind of battle. And there is a survivor here. The 5s connect to the Hierophant, which are lessons of being human. So what is it when we get into this mental energy of the 5? Are we creating the conflict? Do we want to make some kind of a strife? Is it all in our heads, or something that we're externalizing? So you'd have to look to see if it's internal or external, and realize it's a thought form. So you can move on, and it could be, again, the 6 came before the 5 this week, that leaving a situation brings up some of this energy of needing to let that go. That it just reawakens that, and it's a good time to release any strife you might be having that's mental, connected to that human condition, which, oh my goodness, it's something right now. So I get why we're all going through that, and how we need to detox from it. Don't watch the news or whatever it is that works for you. Last sword for the week, and this is on our Friday, and this is really the toughest one, and it looks that way, right? You get this lovely heart in this person's chest, and yet completely pierced. The thing I would say about it is that it's still external. It can feel so internal. It's a 3. It's connected to the Empress, to abundance, to creativity, those we love, we want to nurture. And here, often this card goes back to the original wounding, which tends to happen with parents and child, mother, father, child, or whatever parents were in the child. It's not because they're bad parents or anything like that. It just happens. It's being human. So we have to learn to deal with that piercing. And remember, again, it's a lot about the way we perceive it, because it's mental. It can be about jealousy and heartbreak. So letting go of that, taking a more creative interpretation would be my encouragement, knowing that this too shall pass, and very quickly, because it is a sword. It's a minor is what I'm trying to say. Then we end up on a much happier note for the weekend. Saturday, we get this lovely 10 of Cups. You have some people who seem to be happy here together, children who are playing, obviously the wonderful rainbow. And here in my town last week, got to see a double rainbow, which was really nice after a little shower. Makes me think of that, looking out to the horizon, feeling blessed, all the good energies pouring in. And because it's Cups, it's very emotional, very intuitive, and a happy outlook. And 10s, you take off the 0, you get the 1, and that takes us back to the beginning. We also end, as I was saying, with another cup, and that is our 9 of Cups. And sometimes I've seen this referred to as happiness. Our witch here looks, I'd say, I don't know, it's hard to see this expression. I don't know if I can bring it in enough for you, but I would say maybe content. But there is this abundance, and it's an emotional abundance. I mean, it's interesting because it looks like a bit of a stage set up here. A card can be associated with gluttony, but I would say of a more emotional kind. And so what satisfies us? When is enough enough? What makes us happy? And that is an internal question, because this connects to the crone or the hermit, depending on the deck, number 9 in the majors. So what does that mean for you? How do you see that in your world? How do you see it in the world in general? And can we find some happiness out of that? So as I said, they're all minors this week except for the Queen of Wands, one royal card. So on the whole, you know, it seems like a lot is passing through, and, you know, using that instinctual filter from the Queen is probably a good way to go with that. Last but not least, our Tree Oracle card, Keeper of Forgiveness. The rains of regret will come, as will the high winds of remorse and the storms of resentment. Forgiveness can provide safe harbor. Forgiving another doesn't mean you need to accept their presence in your life or agree with their behaviors. It does mean that you recognize carrying resentment is like poisoning your own well. That also applies to the relationship between you and you. And that's what really resonated for me when I thought, you know, saw this week and what's going on. It feels like a good time for self-forgiveness. So forgive yourself. It doesn't matter how big or little the error, or how conscious or unconscious you were at the time of falter. When you forgive, you carry a golden umbrella protecting you from the lashing storm of bitter thought. So, beloveds, I'm wishing you the best possible 7 days. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing if you haven't already. And reach out if you have questions, would like a personal reading. And otherwise, I'll see you in 7 days.